Funny story about that. You know, when people first arrived on Jemison, they dismantled the colony ship and used the parts to establish a place to live. Over time, they built out, and up, and up, and after long enough, they started to forget about the people and the things still down here. The walls and the ceiling have changed, but this place still uses equipment from that old ship. And it's here because not everyone in New Atlantis can afford Reliant Medical. A journalist? That's a surprise. Most people don't think anything that goes on in the well is worth writing about. I'd be happy to help if I can. Things are always the same in the well. Violent and dangerous. I swear I treat more injuries here than I did when I was a Navy medic. Sure, if you'd like. My name's Talia. I was born and raised right here in the well. I've been the nurse here at the med bay for over a decade now. Once upon a time, I was a combat medic for the UC Navy. When the colony war ended, I came back to the well to put my skills to use for the people here. Things are always rough at the med bay. I'm the closest thing to a doctor that the well has, and I can't treat everyone. The last few weeks have been especially bad. There's some kind of infection going around, and a lot of kids down here are catching it. It just breaks my heart to see. Oh, you're sweet to offer. There might be something you can do, if you're willing. Let's chat again when you have some time to spare, all right? All right, dear. You let me know if there's anything else I can do for you.
No loitering, okay? Can't say I'll have what you need, but you're welcome to look. Nope. No question, business has been slow lately. Not too worried, though. Managed to make ends meet for a good long while. Don't expect that to change now. That's so. Think folks down here are too poor to afford electronics. Not the first time I heard that line. Yeah, I get that kind of attitude far too often. You find yourself with any more commentary, feel free to keep it to yourself. It's fine. Just maybe give things an extra thought before you let them roll right out of your mouth. A reporter. Fine, but I'm only talking basics. I don't like people snooping around my business. How the hell do you think? Life's a mess down here. I'm not holding my breath for it to get any better. Name's Henrik. I own Apex Electronics. That's all I'm willing to say to some nosy reporter. Door's still open, isn't it? That's my idea of success. Sorry if you were hoping for something more flowery. Great! Now why don't you help me out and buy something? I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Stock's a bit... ain't much. But take a look. Stop by any time.
I'm not gonna be stuck in this place for long.
Got a call, someone's power kept going out. Know what it was? A heat leech. Long as my leg. Hey, no loitering.
Were you seen? It's not
You have another story for me? If you have a new story for me, I'm very happy to pay your fee. Hey, that's great! Thanks so much. Did everything go all right? That's why stories like this one are so important. If people knew what was going on down there, maybe they'd want to help fix it. I can't thank you enough for helping me out. I'll send you a copy of the story if it gets published. There's nothing like seeing your name in print. I have a feeling we'll see each other again.
I think I got them. What do you call them? Horns?
The workup's in the cabinet's hands. They said they'll call for us once they've gotten to properly review it. But listen, I know I should have been more forthcoming about who I was earlier. So, in the interest of full disclosure, there's one more thing you ought to know before we head up there. My relationship with the UC. It's more complicated than it might seem at first glance. The UC's actually the only reason I'm here in the first place. I am a clone of a man named Francois Sanon, one-time fleet admiral of the UC during the Colony War, former head of the UC Navy. They called him Ve Victus, woe to the defeated, in Old Earth Latin, a title he earned. The program I was a part of, it was the UC's attempt to create a new generation of military minds from one of their most respected tacticians. Secure the leadership of the UC military for generations to come. A non-trivial amount of gene editing. Clone, honestly, isn't even really the right term for our relationship, thanks to the amount of donor material that was required to bring me into this world. He and I are different on more than a few levels, but there's no denying the fact we're inextricably linked. I'm the last. A few of my siblings, they passed when we were young. Training accidents and the like. But most of the rest were deployed to the front lines during the Colony War, and they never came back. Not a day goes by where I don't think about what the world would look like with them still in it. He would have happily told you he was one of the greats. Ultimately, though, it didn't matter. The man I was cloned from, my father, was executed for acts he committed during the war. The man caused a lot of death, on both sides. Freestar Collective, and UC. Military, and civilians. And the things he did, well, they're a part of the reason the UC and Freestar Collective aren't really on great terms to this day. So my involvement, it could be another obstacle they throw at us up there. I just wanted you to be forewarned. He had his men open fire on civilian ships during the Battle of Cheyenne. A battle that he ultimately ended up losing anyway, devastating the UC fleet and bringing the Colony War to an ugly end for the UC. But he's also the one who ordered the bombing of the Londinian spaceport during their outbreak, condemning countless lives. Both sides agreed the settled systems would be better without him. I really appreciate you saying that. I just thought you deserved to know, considering how much you've done already. You know, while we've got a second, was there anything else we needed to discuss? I know you got dropped into the middle of this pretty fast. Or if you've got any last-minute business to attend to, now might be a good time. No telling how long the cabinet's gonna keep us waiting out here. That's actually a souvenir from my time on Mars. The Red Devils unit I was a part of, they were founded by recruits who'd worked some of Mars' deepest mines. Folks used to adversity. The dust at those depths, it seeps into everything. The human eye included. Where the name Red Devils came from in the first place. It became an unwritten rite of passage that anyone wanting to enlist with the Devils had to do a stint in the mines before they could join up. The Devils were always talked about in such revered tones during my training, so as soon as I was old enough, I signed up, and the eyes were my parting gift. I mean, we never spent a lot of time together. He was too busy being Fleet Admiral to deal with kids. I was raised by a pair of guardians instead. Until his defeat during the Colony War, though, he was known as an extremely effective commander. Savvy, perceptive. That mind opened a lot of doors for him. And for me, too. But Victus, for all his ability, was heartless. Ruthless to a fault. In the end, that's what cost him his life. Well, thinking about it more, I suspect there'd be value in sharing the fact that the Terramorph project was, well, a failure. There's no need to be afraid of this data being weaponized. Knowing that should calm some of the Cabinet's fears and make it easier for us to dispel any suspicions the other factions might have about our intentions. Eye strain from the amount of reading I've got on the horizon if we succeed. The Terramorph project never went anywhere. It couldn't. They're deadly creatures, but they aren't xenoweapons. The Cabinet not opening the archives is probably a bigger risk than them handing over the files. That data itself isn't dangerous, which probably wouldn't be a bad point for us to bring up, should the opportunity arise. How long's the Cabinet gonna keep us waiting? You doing okay? Then I guess it's just a matter of...
The Cabinet meeting is about to begin. All parties, please proceed to the Cabinet chambers.
Sounds like our cue. Here we go.
Ah, welcome. You must be the Captain Hadrian mentioned in her report. You have our thanks for the risks you faced in securing this information.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Yes, well, precisely how urgent is what I hope we'll determine here today. So now, we have two petitioners here making a surprising request. Access to the UC Xeno Warfare Team's Terramorph data, currently housed in the Armistice archives. A request which will require not just this body's agreement, but that of all three Armistice signatories. UC, Freestar Collective, and House Varun. Now, Captain, we've all read Hadrian's report on the subject, but we have yet to hear from you. Perhaps you could summarize for the Cabinet what it is you see as the goal of this endeavor. Listen, compose your thoughts. You let us know when you're ready. All knowledge related to the technologies banned by the UC and the Freestar Collective after the Colony War resides in the archives, including the aforementioned Terramorph data you and Hadrian are after. I want to know what you, someone with less direct involvement in the Armistice, sees as the purpose behind granting said access. That is something to consider. Though we also have to take into account the nature of the data you require.
Madam President, I object to the very premise of this meeting. While no one would argue that what happened on Tau Ceti was anything less than a tragedy, Terramorph attacks are not some sudden new threat on the horizon. They've been happening for generations. To demand we hand over banned archival knowledge and possibly upset the balance of galactic diplomacy because of a single attack seems at best panic. And at worst, a power grab by the daughter of a bloodthirsty warmonger and her associates.
I would remind the chief diplomat who he's speaking to. If it's my father you're looking to address, you're welcome to consult a medium. I would also ask, how many deaths the Cabinet requires to act? 50? 50,000? Because if tragedies like Tau Ceti are just prelude to more attacks, I have no doubt you'll get the body count you require.
Let's keep this civil, shall we? And while there should be no doubt the preservation of life stands paramount among this body's duties, Chief Yassine has a point. Will a single attack, however troubling, be sufficient to convince the other factions to grant us access to what they no doubt consider weapon data? I don't think it's enough. Perhaps you can help, Captain. As the one who actually collected the sample in question, did this Terramorph seem at all alarming to you?
That is worth considering. This attack took place on an almost completely uninhabited world. The casualties were minimal as a result. But if there's another attack, will we be so lucky?
Yes, a fine point, Admiral. So then, Captain, given the discussion now and the information you've been privy to thus far, if you were in our position, would you grant the request made to open the archives? That? I hadn't thought of that, Captain.
An excellent point indeed. The other powers would likely be much more inclined to work with us knowing that. Chief Diplomat,
That point is a good one. Very well, you have my agreement. The galaxy is lucky you were here today, Captain.
You and I are in agreement, Chief Diplomat. So, if there are no other objections, I believe we can agree to give our full backing to make the request to... What was that?
Attention. An incident has occurred. Facility lockdown engaged.
Incident? Chief Sarkin, what's happening?
There's been an attack at the spaceport. Terramorphs.
Terramorphs. More attacks. Just as predicted.
Good God.
There must be another explanation. The creatures evaded our scanners somehow.
There will be plenty of time for conjecture later. Chief Sarkin, order the evacuation of the spaceport and have your men contain the things, but do it discreetly. The last thing we need is a citywide panic.
Yes, ma'am.
Admiral Logan, the local barracks can provide support?
I'll make the order myself. Nearest anti-Xeno squad, though, is off-world. Going to take a while to bring them in.
Well then, we'll have to make do with the tools we've got. You two, we can't risk those things getting out of the spaceport. I want you both on the next train there. We'll let them know you're coming, and that you've dealt with these things before. Now go show them how it's done.
We're on it. Captain, I'm right behind you. Let's get down there.
Now hit him with everything you've got!
No!
Stop! We're trying to help you!
I can't stop!
It's...
Thank you for what you did. We didn't want to hurt them.
The way those people were acting. I've seen this before. They were under the Terramorph's influence, weren't they?
I don't know. They were down at the port and they just started screaming. We tried to restrain them, get them on the train to get them out of harm's way, but But some of the other officers down there, we couldn't restrain them fast enough. They just started firing on us. People we knew. They went berserk.
Pheromonic projection. Some terramorphs, they can induce this fog. It affects everyone differently, but some people just lose control, turn against everyone around them, even if they don't want to. They're like a puppet. You kill the morph, you break the hold. But this means we're gonna need to be real careful with our fire, and keep that EM weapon at the ready. I honestly was just wondering the same thing. But no, you don't need to worry about me. I've had a terramorph try it on me before. I'm not susceptible. So we'll just have to make sure to watch out for each other down there. I'm not suggesting. It's documented behavior. The result of the projection, though, can vary wildly. Some folks just shrug it off. Others hallucinate. And some lose control altogether. They'll lash out at anyone around them. But still be aware while they're doing it. Those cases, you'll either need to knock them out with EM fire, or free them by killing the terramorph. Let's do it.
Nat's unlocked. Please, do what you can to help them.
Officer, are you and this woman experts? Take whatever we can get right now. We've got the remaining creatures locked down on the landing pad, but we're barely holding our perimeter. They said you've done this before. Well, one fire team to spare and whatever supplies you need, but I can't risk them taking over any more of my men. Put those things down and do it fast. We'll hold them as best we can.
Heard you might be looking for some backup. You say the word, we're out there on your 6.
You two have any experience with terramorphs before?
Only the brief they just gave on the way here. But we know how to handle pressure.
Surviving a full-on mental assault isn't the same as keeping your cool in a firefight. Might make you more liability than asset.
We're not UC security. You don't need to worry about us. Your call. We're on the line.
Never safe, never safe, never safe.
Ever wished I'd been more wrong about a theory. Not in a million years. Another attack, just as we're making our request? It's insane. If this doesn't convince the cabinet to proceed with our request, I don't know what will. Almost hard to believe. Suppose we were just in the right place at the right time.
Guess they weren't kidding about you two. Universe put the right people in the right place. Certainly doesn't feel like it.
I don't want to think what would have happened if you two hadn't been here.
Just glad we could rise to the occasion. Captain, we should report back to the President. Let her know the Terramorphs have been dealt with. Take care of yourself, Sergeant.
The spaceport has been secured. Safety precautions remain in place. Please wait for the all-clear signal before exiting your homes. That is all.
They said you're free to come and go.
That's a relief to hear. Thank you, gentlemen. Let your people all know how much we owe them today.
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, there you are. I believe we have some things we should discuss.
The next time
Captain?
Terramorphs rear their ugly heads,
Hadrian,
the UC is
it
going
would
to be
appear
ready.
that the Cabinet owes you our thanks for what you did for the city today. As well as an apology. Your concerns about the Terramorphs, well, consider them validated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Of course. I only wish we could have acted sooner. Now, today's events have only clarified our path forward in the eyes of the Cabinet. You will have our full support in collecting the Terramorph data from the archives, as well as a subsequent investigation into the nature of these attacks. But to accomplish those goals, we're going to need the right people in the right places. As such, the Cabinet has authorized me to reinstate you, Hadrian, effective immediately, to your former rank of Major. As soon as we've got the data in hand, we want you investigating these attacks and how to stop them. Will you do this?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I'd be honored.
Excellent. But as you've both made clear, for such an investigation to succeed first, we're going to need someone to convince the Freestar Collective and House Varun to play ball. Someone who knows precisely the sorts of dangers the colonies and all the galaxy are facing right now. The Cabinet wants you, Captain, to be that representative. The cabinet wants progress, and wants it quickly. You're already far more familiar with the situation than any diplomat would be. There's also no diplomat alive that can claim they helped keep a cadre of terramorphs off the embassy doorsteps. The cabinet was unanimous. They want you. We do. In exchange, we're willing to fast-track your citizenship upon collection of the data. So, will you help us? I'm glad to hear it. Now, we, of course, won't be sending you in without the proper support. Deputy McIntyre in the Office of Interstellar Affairs will be your guide on gaining access to the archives. You should be able to find her in her office across the hall. And on behalf of the whole of the United Colonies, you have our thanks. You're dismissed.
Hey,
I'm gonna go check in with
losing
Chief
anyone
Engineer
in the
Kulkarni.
line of duty
Start getting
is a tragedy.
Chief Yassine, these orders. A Vanguard captain. You... Yes, sir. I'll make sure they get what they require. That must make you my Vanguard captain. Welcome to Interstellar Affairs. I'm Deputy Chief Diplomat McIntyre, Chief Yassine's second-in-command. I heard you were instrumental in protecting the city from the attack. You have my gratitude. I was also informed that you gave quite the presentation to the cabinet. Chief Yassine wants you to know the Interstellar Affairs Office is fully committed to this endeavor, accessing the Terramorph data and beyond. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure you have the tools you need. And that means first getting you into the archives. You do know what the archives are, correct?
It was a mutual agreement, but I suppose you touch on the spirit of it. So, you also know then that it was originally managed by the 3 major galactic players. Access to the archives is only granted in cases of dire emergency, and requires a one-time use code from each of the 3 armistice signatories. UC, Freestar Collective, and House Varun.
Now, the UC is already on board, so that means we'll need to convince 2 people. The ambassadors of the Freestar Collective and House Varun to hand over their codes. Get them both and you'll have your data. But that's a lot easier said than done. No. Each is a strip of several million random numbers generated on the fly based on biometric keys kept by each of the ambassadors on their person at all times. They're impossible to create without those keys, and those keys stay with the ambassadors, meaning we're accessing nothing if we can't get them on our side.
I couldn't agree more. However, both ambassadors have reasons they won't or can't, work with us. Now, I'll provide guidance on how we believe you can acquire each code, but ultimately, it'll be up to you to get them both to cooperate.
And I do mean cooperate. Threats and violence are off the table here. Though that doesn't mean we can't get creative.
But it does mean we need to get you up to speed on who you're dealing with. Who do you want to start with? Ambassador Radcliffe of Freestar, or Ambassador Balmore of House Varun? Ah, the good Ambassador Radcliffe. She's a veteran of the Colony War, and her only goal in life is to make ours miserable. Now, officially, our office is suggesting you try and negotiate with her.
Use your experiences as a member of the military and with the threat we're facing to convince her to lend her support.
And who knows? Maybe that'll work. Stranger things have happened. But my suspicion is we're going to have to rely on other tools to get her code.
Certainly. See, good diplomacy is all about the careful application of pressure. We just need to find the squeeze.
UC Intelligence has a recording device planted in the ambassador's living quarters, which we suspect you can use to your advantage.
But getting caught trespassing is a quick way to land yourself in an embassy holding cell.
So, if you are going to try and access the device, you're going to need to find a way in there without being seen.
Now, we recovered some intel we believe should be able to help with that. But there's also a disgruntled staff member you might be able to pump for information. Maybe even convince to work with you.
Name's Cameron Long. He's younger than Ratcliffe, bears less of a grudge towards the UC. He works closely with the ambassador, making him a promising source for information on the ins and outs of embassy life, and someone who very likely hates her guts.
Yes, many. Don't steal anything. Don't get caught anywhere you're not supposed to. Absolutely do not harm anyone. If something goes wrong, we'll do our best to smooth things over, but I can't make any promises.
All right. Here, your diplomatic ID. I'll give them a heads up you're on your way. Not likely to let you through the door otherwise.
And take these. Chief Yassine wanted you to have some options on how to proceed in there.
Ambassador Balmore's a challenge. When the rest of House Varun retreated into seclusion shortly after the signing of the armistice, Balmore stayed here. He's since lent his support to a small number of archival requests, so there's real hope he might again. Though claiming to know how a member of House Varun thinks is a quick way to earn yourself a psych eval.
Well, these days, they're primarily considered a security threat. House Varun Zealots, a fundamentalist outshoot of the group that stayed behind when the rest retreated into seclusion, want nothing more than to send everyone not dedicated to their cause to the Great Serpent in the Sky. but that hasn't always been the case. After they ended the Serpent's Crusade about 70 years back, House Faroon did take a real run at trying to normalize relations with the rest of the galaxy. It's why they have an embassy here in the first place, why they were included in the armistice negotiations. But then, without warning, they left, leaving behind, to our knowledge, just the ambassador and his duty under the armistice.
Of course, but there is another wrinkle. We're not 100% sure Balmor is actually still alive. His public appearances were always rare, but it's been several years now since he last poked his head out. Scans of the facility show life signs, but not the kind we were expecting.
Your task is to find him and kindly but firmly remind him of his duties under the armistice. Then you search the embassy for his biometric key, collect your code piece, and we'll go about notifying his next of kin, if we can ever find them. But let's hope it doesn't come to that.
The embassy is still legally House Faroon's sovereign territory, so we're not technically permitted inside. We've snuck in the occasional spy, of course, but the ambassador has proven more evasive than you'd expect for a man of his age. But we're quite sure he hasn't left the city. The man stands out. The Varun delegation brought more than a few of their native flora with them when they set up in the embassy. It seems those plants have been allowed to flourish, making it hard for us to verify what's flora and what's ambassador.
I have no doubt. Now, the embassy front door isn't an option, but our spies have stated there's a side entrance that should allow you access. Here. This device should get you all the way down to the embassy interior. Once you're inside, though, finding the ambassador is going to be up to you. And fair warning, we received a report that alarms might have been tripped inside the embassy during the attacks. Watch out for automated security in there.
Now, if you have additional questions or require clearance for a new approach we haven't already discussed, don't hesitate to ask. I'd suggest you start with Ambassador Radcliffe. Approach her while the attack is still fresh in her and her staff's mind.
Be smart out there, Captain.
Pardon?
By the way, Captain, Sergeant Yubi was looking for